Welcome to this developer skill sprint using C++ and Android intents for inter-app communication. I'm David I, Chief Evangelist for Embarcadero Technologies, and thanks for joining us for this C++ developer skill sprint. The URL down below will have the blog notes associated with the sprint on Android intents, both for Object Pascal and for C++. There's my Twitter handle and my email address. This skill sprint works with Rad Studio 10 Seattle, C++ Builder 10 Seattle, App Methods Summer Release, and with C++ on Android. Jim McKeith on Tuesday covered Object Pascal working with Android intents. Today we'll cover using the C++ language. The blog will have links for both language resources and general resources for doing Android intent-based development. We're going to cover an introduction to intents. Then we're going to look at how to send and receive intents using a demonstration. So intent is a messaging object that you can use to request an action or send data to another application. There are both implicit events, which are broadcast to all apps that match the intent filter, and you define those in the manifest. You can also define explicit intents that are only sent to specific application services or activities. The general use case is that you have an application and you have some functionality maybe in another application that you'd like to use. So you send some data to that application or get something from it. So for example, it might have an application that has an intent that knows how to do a barcode scanning. So rather than you having to write barcode scanning into your application, you want to communicate to that app that has barcode scanning, let it do the barcode scan, and send the result of the barcode scan back. Again, as long as that application defines an intent, you can use it. And as I mentioned, there are explicit intents where you specify the component name, or implicit events that is a general action. And we'll see the sending and receiving of intents in the demonstration. So let's take a look at using C++ on Android to create an application that can receive or send data between another application by using Android intents. So here we have a C++ project group for an Android intents example. Got a sender and a receiver. So Darren, why don't you tell us a little about these applications?
The Android intent system, you can kind of think of it as being similar to shell execute on Windows. It's what does inter-process communication. Whenever an application launches, it launches with a particular intent. By default, the standard intent is a launch intent, which just basically starts the front page of the application. That's what the default Android process loader does. An application can be launched with a different intent and take you to a different part of an application, for example. That's how, like when you click on a web link, it can open up an application. That's what the intent system does. So this is a sample that shows how to send and receive an intent with a FireMonkey application. Sending an intent is something that has been possible for a long time, and receiving an intent is something that we've been able to do via a push notification in the past. When you receive a push notification, you can tap on the notification and launch a FireMonkey application with that whatever intent has been defined in the notification. What we've done in Rad Studio 10 Seattle is we have made it possible so that it doesn't have to be through a push notification. It can be through any arbitrary intent. You can send an intent from another FireMonkey application or from an application of some other type. You can launch a FireMonkey application with that intent. This application is the sender. So it has a couple buttons that sends different pieces of text. One is just a little trivial C++ hello world function. The other is a little skeleton of what a unit 1 header file would look like in C++ Builder. The method that does all the work is this send text via intent. And here it just receives a string, and then it calls the Android API to first create an intent and then set some parameters on it. One of the critical things it sets is the type of the intent. Here I'm using a text type, and I made up this type because it's likely something that doesn't exist already on an Android phone. It's just text/CPP. You have to set the action for the intent, which is, in this case, it's to view the content of what's being sent. and then it sets the extra text parameter to be the text that we want to send. Then the next thing it does is it calls the Android package manager to see if there is something on the device that is registered to be able to handle this type of content. So the type of the content here is text/CPP. So it calls the package manager and it asks, do you have anything that can handle this intent? If it does, it will return one, and then we launch the activity with this intent. If the package manager says it doesn't have anything to handle this, then it will fail that test, and we can show an error message.
And then over on the receiver side, we have some code, right, in the form create.
Yeah, what the form create is doing is it's seeing if there's an application event service, and if there is, it's setting up an event handler to handle the startup so that when the application starts up, it can look to see what intent it was started with. If a particular intent was provided, it can handle that intent action. In this case, the intent action that we're looking for is an intent that contains text to be displayed. When the application is launched, if it's launched with an intent, it will get into this method, and we will validate that the intent has data, and then extract the data. And if we got extra text in that intent, then we just display it in a memo.
And so to test these, we just need to make sure that the receiver is on our device, and then we'll do that by running, right? Because I haven't deployed it over there before.
Right, yeah. You just need to make sure that the receiver is on the device. There is something that you have to add to the Android manifest as well. You need to, in the manifest, you have to indicate that the application can handle a particular intent type.
Okay.
And after we show this running, I can have you bring up the Android manifest and show you what that is.
Okay, so over here I'm running the receiver, and then when it's done loading, it just says, okay, it's there now. So if we look at the Android manifest.
Yeah, and if you look down towards the bottom, you see there's a section that's labeled intent filter.
Yep.
That section already exists, and the first two items, the main action and the category of launcher, those already exist. That's the default intent for launching an application. The last section here indicates when this application is installed on the device, it tells the Android package manager that this application can handle an intent of the type action. It's browsable. It can become the default for this type of file type. And then it sets the MIME type. Here, this is the same that was set in the source code, text/CPP.
So now we have the sender popping up, and there's the splash screen.
So then just hit one of the buttons. And so this is now trying to launch an application. In your case, you have an application that is probably already registered to handle any MIME type of text. You can choose to open this with the FireMonkey CPP receive intent, and you can tell it either just once or default. And that is the text that was received via the intent from the sender application.
As we showed in the demo, you can set the action for the intent. And I wanted to show some of the choices that you have. So we'll just hit Control Space, and you can see all the different list of actions. We had that view action. There's a default action, delete, edit, post, and so on. So send. So there's lots of actions that you can choose as part of your intent. And all of these are defined in the Android JNI graphics content view text header file. There's the JIntent class, which is an interface. That's why there's that underbar DI for the Delphi interface. And then there's the get actions, and down further are the definitions of each of the actions that you might choose for your intent, and also interfaces for getting at the extras and the data that's associated with the intent.
There are lots of resources available for learning more about event management, messaging, and specifically about using Android intents. There's a sample in the SourceForge repository that's also included in the samples for C++ Builder 10 Seattle Update 1. Again, these links will all be placed on the blog notes at embt.co/sprint-android-intents. Intents are also covered along with other things that are new in FireMonkey 10 Seattle in the CodeRage 10 C++ video on YouTube, and there's the link to the replay of that session with myself and Darren Kaczynski. Next time, on Thursday, the 10th of December, Al Manarino is going to cover using C++ with regular expressions and the CodeRage X class. That'll take place at the same time, 6 a.m., 11 a.m., and 5 p.m. Pacific time. And we'll have a final C++ specific skill sprint on the 17th. You're registered for the series. You'll get reminders for each of the upcoming C++ developer skill sprints. Also, next Wednesday, December 9th, we're going to have an hour-and-a-half C++ in action webinar focused on helping you move your C++ projects to C++ Builder 10 Seattle. That webinar is taking place at 6 a.m., 11 a.m., and 5 p.m. Pacific time. There's a GoToWebinar registration link at the bottom. I'll also put that registration link on the Sprint Android Intents blog. And you can also go to my David I community blog, and you'll see more details about next week's webinar. Let me bring up the page. And just to remind you, on my blog, I've got the 3 topics, including this one on December 3rd, using Android Intents, regular expressions, and CodeRage X, and then understanding and using FireMonkey layouts on December 17th. All 3 of these for C++ Builder 10 Seattle. And then my other blog post covers the details about the C++ in Action webinar. We're going to talk about migrating your project forward, new capabilities in 10 Seattle, language features, application tethering, and so on. I hope you'll join me and others on December 9th, and also join us each Thursday for the skill sprints.
Give me a moment to tell you briefly about the promotions we have available for anyone that upgrades to Delphi, C++ Builder, or RAD Studio 10 Seattle. Between now and December 31st, registered users of any earlier version can qualify for upgrade pricing. This is a savings of up to 45% off the new user price. Additionally, all registered users of 10 Seattle get access to the bonus pack. The bonus pack includes the new book by Nick Hodges, More Coding in Delphi. This covered writing solid code, aspect-oriented programming, parallel programming, and many more patterns and practices. Also, the new book by Marco Cantu, The Object Pascal Handbook. This is a modern language guide that covers many new language features as well as the core runtime library. Additionally, you get the MIDA Converter Basic, which does a lot of the heavy lifting to help you convert existing VCL applications to FireMonkey to take advantage of multi-device development. And also the VCL and FireMonkey premium styles. These premium styles give you the styles you need to have your application really stand out and have a professional look and feel. The styles are also available for consistency between VCL and FireMonkey to give you consistent look and feel across platforms. Also, as a special offer between now and December 18th, if you buy or upgrade to Professional, Enterprise, or Ultimate, you can additionally get Konopka Signature VCL controls for free and CodeSite Studio 5 for free. If you upgrade to Architect, though, you get the RAD Studio Solution Pack for free, which includes most every component you need for your application development. All this you receive immediately without any extra steps on your part. For more information about these special offers and more, visit embarcadero.com/radoffer.
Well, that's it for this C++ developer skill sprint on Android Intents. There's my email address, there's my Twitter handle, and now it's time for your questions.
And again, the key is make sure you update your manifest file in your project for Android. And then the magic will happen. The coding is simple. There are other types of intent filters. Jim McKeith, if you want to look at his Pascal example, he also sent a bitmap from one app to another. Just a different MIME type. You can pass additional data in the extras, JSON, whatever you want. So It's very extensible in that respect. And again, the Android documentation on intent filters gives you more information about what Android is doing under the covers.
And just a reminder, the source code is on SourceForge, or you can, if you've got 10 Seattle, right mouse click on your samples folder and do an update from SourceForge via Subversion link and get the latest bits there as well. The other thing is go to the blog that we have for the skill sprint that is on your screen. I also put the link in the chat window, and we've got links to additional information on Android intents, intent filters, and all of the capabilities that are there. You can send any kind of data, whether it's text, bitmaps, JSON, whatever you might want to send between different applications by using the Android intents. Lots of possibilities there in your applications. Short, sweet, simple code, all available in C++ Builder. I should also mention all those special offers that are there for the Canopka controls and the RAD Solution Pack. All of those work with C++ Builder 10 as well. So if you're not already on 10 Seattle, get to 10 Seattle, take advantage of those RAD offers on the RAD offer page, and download them and use them in your applications.
On the blog post, I've updated the links to include the name of that header file and also a link to the next week's webinar. And all of these links are also in the chat window for you. So those are there. And when the replay is available, I'll update the replay for this C++ skill sprint. Jim has already put the replay of his Delphi Object Pascal Tuesday skill sprint in the skill sprint landing page. All right, so let's get to the questions. There's a question here, did Android services make it into update 1? And the answer is no. Android services for C++ is on the plan for the next release of C++ Builder and RAD Studio. So stay tuned for that, and I'll make a note of your question so that I can keep you updated as Android services for C++ comes in. But it's pretty cool that we can do Android intent programming in C++ in C++ Builder 10 Seattle. Very cool. And Jim, if you want to check out his Object Pascal version on the blog, and he's got a link to the source code, he also shows you how to add a bitmap, pass a bitmap as an intent extras. You can actually send anything, whether it's text, bitmaps, JSON, whatever data that you might want to send. And again, back in the code, it's just a matter of setting up what you're going to pass as part of the extras on the send action. And these MIME types can be anything, including a GUID or something. If you want to make them totally private to your own application, you can put whatever string you want in the type. And in the manifest file, you notice that we set the text CPP for our receiver as the default intent. That's why when we received the request, you had two choices, and the first choice is the default, which was my receiver application. The other one was a text editor that's on my Android device. So you have control both as a default intent action, or you can create your own just random GUID MIME type that no other application would think that that intent was for them, and Android wouldn't try to launch a different event. All you'd have is the one application that you set up. Let's see, if the receiver is already running, doesn't it open another instance? No, if the receiver is there, then when you choose it, it's ready to be used, just like push notifications. Push notifications have three ways, and this is the same event mechanism. If the application is on top, you just receive the text. If the application is in the background somewhere but still running, then it gets brought to the front and you receive the text. If the application is closed but it's been registered, then the application gets launched and receive the text. So the same mechanism as Darren mentioned is based on how we also do event and activation for push notifications. We're just using the intent interface and API, in this case, for Android. Okay, that looks like all the questions. I want to thank you all for joining us in this first of the C++ skill sprints for December. Next Thursday, Al Manarino is going to cover regular expressions and CodeRage X in C++, and then I'll come back on the 17th with FireMonkey layouts and with C++. And each of those topics are also covered on Tuesdays using the Object Pascal language. And then next Wednesday, December 9th, an hour-and-a-half webinar on migrating projects, moving from 32 to 64-bit, using the new C++ 11, 132 compiler, and so on. We'll be doing that next Wednesday in those C++ in Action webinars. So take care, everyone. Great to have you with us, and we'll see you again next week.